Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. Today, we are talking all things Kenny Hustle, Kenrich Williams, the guy who does a little bit of everything out there on the floor for the Thunder. The one they call Unc, the one that is just a great locker room guy and an easy guy to root for, honestly, out there on the floor.
He's just everybody's best friend. He's the best friend that you want to have because he doesn't let you get away with anything. He has fun with you.
But will also protect you.
Yes.
Yeah, like he has your back.
Right. He's brother, best friend, uncle, kind of dad.
Yeah, a
all
little
at
bit.
the same time.
And uncle, yeah.
They should call him Godfather. That's kind of what he is. He's uncle, Godfather. You know, it's all kind of wrapped into that because Kenrich, he's just such a great stalwart for the team.
For sure. And it's been so fun to watch him develop as a player as well.
Yeah.
In a Thunder uniform over the years that he has been here. And this season, really good season for Kenrich. And we got to see a lot from him. So let's start with our stat of the season for Kenny Hustle. What did you choose for him?
He was 8th in a certain category this year at 0.45. 0.45.
8th. Oh, turnover. No, I wanted to say like assist to turnover ratio, but that didn't sound right. You're gonna have to tell me.
This is charges per 36 minutes. I know.
Yeah.
Very obscure.
Yep, wouldn't have gotten
very
that
obscure.
one.
So Kenrich wasn't among the top 10 in total charges taken.
Yeah.
But every time he was on the floor, basically every other time he was out there, he was taking a charge.
For sure.
So his per 36 minutes, he was getting about half a charge per 36 minutes, which is one of the top 10 marks in the league. And it just was one of those things of when this guy gets into the game, he does what he does, and he does it with great frequency.
I would love, because I think also, in addition to the charges that he drew, I'm pretty sure he drew a lot of offensive fouls as well. And so I would have loved a stat that just brings all of those together. Anytime that a whistle was drawn because an offensive player barreled into you incorrectly, that needs to be a stat, because I feel like Kenrich, in the same vein, would kind of be up there amongst
17 total offensive fouls drawn, which is kind of right up there with who we talk about, Isaiah Joe,
Jalen Williams.
But Kenrich played significantly fewer minutes. I believe this season he played about 1,000 minutes this year. Isaiah Joe, for context, played almost 1,500.
Okay.
So pretty decent difference there. Jay Will and Kenrich played almost the same amount. And so it just kind of goes to show that Kenrich is able to go into the game and do what he does.
I think a quote that Coach Dagnall had about Kaysen also applies to Kenrich.
Okay.
He doesn't play with his tuxedo on.
No, he's Kenrich may have never seen a tuxedo based on the way, if you looked at the way that he plays.
Yeah.
I don't think Kenrich,
No.
Yeah. That's not in his closet for sure.
This man's got his work boots on. Yeah. He's ready to go to work out there.
That's Kenrich. He drives a truck.
Oh, sure.
He's Waco through and through.
Yeah.
No, he's not pretentious at all.
Yeah.
He loves Oklahoma City.
Sure
he loves
does.
Lake Hefner.
Sure
he loves
does.
just being one of the guys here in town. Yeah.
This goes a little bit into my stat.
Okay.
I'm so proud of this stat. And I think you might be able to get it.
Okay.
It is a tough one.
Okay.
33%. And I will give you a hint.
Okay.
It is not a shooting percentage.
I didn't think so, because Kenrich is a much better shooter than 33%.
Much better, yes.
33%.
So 1/3 of ...
1/3. You're gonna have to tell me.
Okay. This is the percentage of Kenrich Williams' minutes this season that he played as the 5.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good.
1/3 of his minutes.
Yeah, that's really good.
And this was a bigger storyline this season for Kenrich, because the Thunder threw a lot of small lineups out there. And in those small lineups, Kenrich would be the 5 out there. It kind of vacillate between him and J-Dub as kind of the biggest guy out there. But that was a massive part of his role this season, was to be the enforcer, guarding the biggest player. And I remember very specifically, I think we were in San Francisco, and it was during a practice, I think. And we were talking to Kenrich, and we were like, what's it like playing the 5? Do you enjoy it? He's like, love it.
Yeah. It frees him up on the offensive end too.
Yeah.
You know, it gives him a lot more space and room to operate, gives him chances to, you know, get some free looks from behind the arc, to attack a little bit if he needs to. You know, he's not a guy that's going to be driving the ball to the rim necessarily, but he can cut as the 5-man too. And so those lineups were good for the Thunder. OKC in general over the last few years has been good when they've gone small.
And we saw this from Kenrich a little bit last season as well, when the Thunder didn't have Chet Holmgren, but they wanted to kind of, you know, still mix things up and try things out. And we saw a lot of Kenrich at the 5 last season as well. And I love the quote that he said. He was like, "It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog."
No doubt.
And that's Kenrich to a T.
Yeah.
That is perfect kind of encapsulation of him. All right, let's get into what made us look for Kenrich this season. Mine is a game in April against the Indiana Pacers, and Kenrich shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the field, 100%. And I think similar kind of to Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah.
Kenrich's ability to go into a game, and I chose this game because like the numbers are loud, but there have been games where Kenrich scored 1 point, 2 points, 0 points. But you walk away from the game being like, gosh, Kenrich Williams was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, just awesome minutes, awesome energy.
Huge
just
impact. Yeah.
Huge impact, rebounds, assists, just moving the ball, making good decisions, keeping things flowing. And this game against Indiana, the Thunder, they didn't win this game, but Kenrich had such a massive impact. And this was a game where the numbers were loud.
Yeah.
And we're like, you can't shy away from the fact that Kenrich had an impact on this game.
Yeah, and it was huge because the Thunder was down some guys on that road trip, if you remember, and had suffered an injury during the middle of that game as well. Shea was out for that, most of that road trip, and so Kenrich was in a situation where it was like, hey, we need somebody to not step up and play Shea's role, but needs to step in and play their game to the best of their ability. Thunder didn't end up winning that game, but did enough to hang into that game for as long as possible, and Kenrich was a huge reason why. Yeah,
he had, I think, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. It was just like a little bit of everything for Kenrich, and there have been so many games. I kind of wish I would have chosen a game where he had 0 points and just a bunch of assists or something, but his impact can really just spread far and wide. What made you look for Kenrich this season?
It was a game in Toronto, also somewhat late in the season, and he did not play the game before that.
Oh, that's right.
He played 0 minutes against Utah at home 2 days before. Thunder goes up to Toronto to start a 3-game road trip, and suddenly Kenrich is fully in the rotation, scores 12 points, grabs 4 steals in that game. I end up getting the walk-off interview with him afterwards, and that's usually an indicator of a guy that really had, a huge impact on the game. The Thunder played quite a bit of small ball against that Raptors team, and Kenrich, this is just the ultimate professionalism that the Thunder wants to develop within their guys. The flexibility, the opportunity that these guys have to treat every minute, every game, every week as its own entity, and not to let whatever happened, 2 nights before impact you. Kenrich goes out. It didn't look like he missed a beat at all, despite not playing the game before.
Professionalism is the perfect word to describe it, and I think you can apply that to every single guy on this roster where, Aaron Wiggins, vacillating minutes throughout the season. Kenrich Williams might not play. You throw him in there, and you're going to get Kenrich Williams. You can't put him out there, and he's going to be somebody different. There's only one speed for Kenrich, and it is pedal to the metal, full force, 100%. And that's exactly what we saw in that game against the Raptors. I remember that game very distinctly now that you mention it, because it was just very much like, wow.
The 4 steals, just to be in that type of timing when and to not be in your emotions about not playing the game before.
Try to force something. Try to make it about you in that game. To be like, you should play me more now. It's like, no, I'm just going to go out there and do my thing.
Yeah, and if the ball comes to me in advantageous positions, I'm going to go get it.
Yep. Yeah. And that's K-Rich right there. All right, let's get into Shea that again for Mr. Kenny Hustle. What's yours?
This kind of falls in line with what we were just talking about.
It's an honor to be a part of a team, an organization like this that truly puts the team first, and I'm super proud of our success this year and how much growth we made from not only last year but the previous years before to where we were this year. It's something you can't take for granted, so I'm extremely grateful for it.
This is a guy that in Kenrich Williams that didn't play that many minutes in the playoffs, and he didn't play as many minutes in general as he has over the course of the last few seasons. And so for him to have that perspective and to be expressing gratitude the way that he was, I don't know. I felt like that was really, really poignant. I mean, last year he played almost 23 minutes a game. This year was about 15.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of something that Sam Presti talked about Lou Dort and sort of forecasted a little bit as he was talking about a few other players on the team, it's like guys who can tighten what they do and still be efficient and impactful is really where this thing needs to go, because as more and more talent gets accumulated onto the team, as players who are young, Chet Holmgren heading into his second season, J-Dub heading into his third season, like Cason Wallace heading into his second season, as these players necessarily need to sort of find and grow and expand the bounds of their games, guys need to really become tight in who they are. And that's not to say that just the guys that are here have been here have to sacrifice, but you look at a guy like Kenrich, plays 15 minutes a night, shoots 40% from three this year. That's, one of the best marks of his career. So just really impressive.
Honestly, like that level of gratitude, we've seen it from Kenrich the entire time that he's been here, of just like loving Oklahoma City, loving this organization, this team especially. And for him to be like, it's an honor to be a part of this team. Just great stuff from Kenny Hustle.
What was yours?
Oh man, it was a great experience. Something that you won't forget. And to be able to do it with the group of guys that we have, I was extremely grateful for it. And it was no better way to start my playoff journey.
It's hard to believe that was his first
playoffs.
That
was his first playoffs.
Yeah.
And like, we think of Kenrich, like we have to remember, Kenrich is 20. How old is Kenrich?
Like 29.
He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
29 years old. And he's like the vet of this team, basically.
Right.
And so, this is season 5 for him.
Right.
And so like he has experience, but he's still relatively young. This is a guy who he's only played with, 2 organizations. And this is his first playoff experience.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was such cool, kind of like, oh man, like, yeah, you're Unc. Yeah, you're kind of like, you've got, kids and a family and like all this stuff. And you're like the senior member kind of this locker room, but this is new for you too.
Yeah.
But it was awesome for him. And he was like, it was a great experience.
Pretty full circle also that the first ever playoff series he gets to play in is against the team that brought him into the league in the first place in New Orleans. And, he was spent some time in the G League, kind of a fringe roster player there. I remember being with the Thunder going to play at New Orleans and Kenrich being in the starting lineup there one night. And I thought, Kenrich Williams? I've never heard of this guy. And he's starting for an NBA team. And then the next year was the year that, everything went crazy. The Thunder, ends up getting Kenrich in a trade before the 2020-21 season. And suddenly I'm meeting Kenrich Williams. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy that started that random game down in New Orleans. And I'm like, this guy. And then, you get to meet him and you're like, oh, this guy's got something to him.
Oh,
it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And fits in so well with this group. And everyone obviously just rallies around him. Just such a beloved member of that locker room. Can I tell you what blessed my timeline with Kenrich this season?
Please.
And it's actually a little bit of a tie-in to the podcast.
Okay.
Do you remember there was like a stretch, I believe, maybe in August, where these guys were just having camp after camp after camp?
Oh, do I remember? Yes, Paris. We were on the road. We were on the road just as much as we were during the season.
How could we forget going from Waco to Fort Smith? I went out to Australia. Yeah, we were all over the place. Kenrich had himself a basketball camp in his old high school, University High School. Yeah. What made me smile so big about this, we did a podcast at his high school. I watched it the other night before this podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, the smile that Kenrich Williams had in his old high school, he was just waxing poetic about Waco in general, but also his high school. Like, there was so much pride. He was like, yeah, they call us the U because it's like, they basically call it like Waco University, but it's a high school because it's University High School. Right. But like we're like the basketball school, and everyone comes here because like they know we're good at basketball. It just like made me smile knowing that Kenrich is like also like the pride and joy of that school as well.
First of all, don't give Paris an off season because she'll go back and watch podcast episodes from last summer.
I will.
Second of all, that was an amazing experience to be there. And it was really informative to me to talk to one of his assistant coaches from when he was playing there. And he was very matter of fact about saying that, yep, the game that you see Kenrich Williams playing out there on the floor, kind of the dirty work, scrap, knock down some catch and shoot shots, just kind of be a connector out there, but definitely not like a star of the team. That's exactly the player that he was in high school too. Yeah. And in some regard, that's really stunning to hear because most NBA players were far and away the best player on their middle school team, their high school team, their AAU team, their college team until they got to the pros. And then they've got to figure out some other way to impact a team and not be a star. That's like, we talk about Nick Collison a lot, just being somebody that's such a fixture of the organization. Like that was Nick Collison to a T. He was the best player on every team he played on until he got to the Thunder and he had to play a different role. Kenrich proved that you can become an NBA player by being a lifelong role player if you do that role and you play that role to absolute perfection. And that's what Kenrich has demonstrated.
He's also a living embodiment of like, you gotta earn everything. This man earned every opportunity that he got. He wasn't the, massively recruited, number one overall. This man was fighting for his NBA career out here, earned it, and made the most of every opportunity that he got.
I mean, he played at New Mexico Junior College, and just some amazing stories that I've heard from Kenrich over the years about taking a Greyhound bus back home to Waco for the holidays and for spring break and stuff like that, and the dust storms that would roll through little Hobbs, New Mexico, and how the one restaurant in the whole town, I think, was like an Applebee's or a Chili's or something like that, and it was right across the street from campus, and that was the whole experience. But it was a chance for him to keep playing basketball, and some of the things that these guys put themselves through to get to this point. I mean, how can you not have the level of gratitude that we've just talked about with these quotes?
Yeah. And honestly, it just matches the whole kind of ethos of Oklahoma City of just like roll up your sleeves, get your lunch pail and go to work. Like that's Kenrich right there. Bless your timeline. What bless your timeline?
He was a little bit of that enforcer in Game 4.
Yeah, Dallas. He was.
He didn't play a lot of minutes, as I said, in the playoffs, but he did get thrust into that Game 4 against the Mavericks. And at a fairly pivotal juncture, when Dallas really kind of had it rolling, there was a little bit of like a tie-up, a dust-up on the floor. The Thunder is like the least fined team ever. Hardly ever gets technicals. It's not really part of this organization's DNA. But Kenrich Williams is a player who is going to stand up for his teammates. He's going to not back down from someone jawing at him, jawing at one of his teammates, shoving somebody or whatever. And Kenrich doesn't do anything, but he just doesn't flinch and doesn't budge.
Exactly.
And he doesn't walk away. He just stands his ground. And that is an extremely powerful thing. I'm not going to read into the tea leaves of what happened after that moment, what guys shot from the field after that moment. You all can go do what you want to do with that. But I will say the momentum was not really on the Thunder's side prior to that moment. And the Thunder ended up winning that game. And I don't think necessarily that there's a coincidence there. Mark Daigneault has talked about the fact that guys stand up a little bit straighter when Kenrich Williams is on the floor.
We heard from Jalen Williams that, we kind of like stuck our chest out a little bit more when Kenrich is out there, especially in that game. And that just goes to show the effect that he has on this team, on the locker room. We've heard years and years ago that like, if anybody's going to hold you accountable, it's going to be Kenrich Williams. Kenrich is going to, take you by your shirt and like make sure that you're right. And he's also going to have your back in any situation. And you want someone out there who is, not going to flinch, like you mentioned, and is going to make sure that this thing is rolling in the right direction. Because that's what we want. That's what we all want. And Unk is here to make sure we're all rolling in the right direction. Great stuff from Kenrich Williams. Not just this season. I mean, given the fact that he didn't play as many minutes, but was still just as impactful, did not waver in his personality, who he is.
Yeah.
And says so much about who he is as a person.
Yep.
And, you know, he's going to be in the gym. We've heard that he was in the gym with his wife, getting shots up. His wife also played basketball.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
They got two little kids now. And
a couple more rebounders in the gym.
Yeah. So, you know, he'll probably be back and forth between Waco and, you know, here all summer. And we'll be looking forward to seeing him around.
Maybe we can go down to his camp if he has it again this season. We'll probably be there.
Yeah. I mean, just keep an eye out in August.
That's right. That's right. But that wraps up this episode on Kenrich Williams. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.